So on the one hand, Jung recognizes early on the archetypal element in the Nazi frenzy, but initially he seems undecided as to whether it bodes for ill or good. So he's kind of trying to keep an open mind.
He is.
Anything more you want to say about that particular part of it?
Yeah, Joseph Henderson, who became a noted Jungian psychologist later, was studying medicine in London at the time, in early 1933. And he writes Jung and asks Jung what he thinks of the new Nazi government. And Jung responds that he's uncertain where the Nazi movement is tending. He doesn't know. It might bring some new thing of value into the world, or it might just carry off people to their madness. And that's where he is in early 1933. He doesn't know where the government or the movement is tending, and that's where many people were in 1933.
Yeah, yeah. One of the people in the account is a Matthias H. Goering.
Yeah.
And so I immediately, I went, wow, is he related to the infamous Hermann Goering?
Yeah, he's his cousin.
I went to Wikipedia and that's what I saw. And furthermore, I saw that Matthias Goering was a psychiatrist trained in the Adlerian approach and a high-ranking Nazi.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, what was it about the Adlerian approach that made it appeal to Nazis?
Maybe the emphasis on power. And I don't know that closely, but I would think it's the emphasis on power that would be of appeal to the Nazis.
I think in the book you also mentioned something about community feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm not deep on Adler either, so it's been a while since I looked at Adler. You report that Jung said, or was reported to have said, some unfortunate things early in his tenure as head of the GMSP. I don't know if you have those at hand or if you can remember them. Maybe you can give us a sense of them.
Well, I'll start with a statement that is obviously anti-Semitic, and it was recorded in the unpublished notebooks of Esther Harding, which I've seen. She had an analytic session with Jung in November 1933, and she recorded in her notebook that day that he had said that German Jews drank champagne at Montreux when Germany was starving. And he felt sorry for individual hardship, but felt that Jews as a whole deserved it.
That was that old perception that the Jews are all rich and controlling everything.
Yeah. And you mentioned community feeling, and I think it relates. Meidenbaum, in his book on Jung and anti-Semitism, his more recent book, the second book, says that he believes that Jung was not consciously anti-Semitic, but that he had an unconscious cultural prejudice. And I think Meidenbaum is right about that. Mm-hmm. I think Jung shared some anti-Semitic feeling that was common in contemporary culture in Switzerland at the time. Anti-Semitism was not uncommon, and I think Jung picked up some, as Meidenbaum says, unconscious prejudice from his contemporary culture.
Yeah. Another major dynamic that you examined was that Freud and his psychoanalysis were seen as a Jewish psychotherapy. And Jung made some references to Jewish versus Aryan psychotherapy.
Oh, that's very interesting. There are letters of Jung to Wolfgang Kronefeld, who was his assistant in Germany, in Switzerland, and then left to become a psychologist in Berlin. And the letters to Kronefeld that are of particular importance in regard to this are December 1933 and February 1934. And there Jung writes of, he asks in the first letter, Kronefeld, to write an article contrasting Freud's negative, quote, Jewish psychology with Jung's psychology. supporting Jung's standpoint. And in the second letter, the letter to Cronefeld in February 1934, he speaks in favor of the German government suppressing what he refers to as public preaching of Freudian psychology in Germany, and again uses the term Freudian Jewish psychology. Now, the letters smack of anti-Semitism, and this is additional evidence beyond the letter to the record in Harding's notebooks at the time. These three evidence then I think point strongly, and I think are sufficient evidence that he did make some anti-Semitic statements at the time, and one could cite others. This is early on, the first year of Nazi Germany. But there's a second important point here, and that is that Jung wanted to promote his psychology, that is Jungian psychology, in Germany. And these two letters to Cronefeld are clear evidence that this is what he wanted to do.
Yeah, that to me was a very interesting dynamic that maybe we'll discuss some more as we go along.